All right. Morning, everybody. Ooh, silhouette. Alrighty, well, here I am, dark and shadowed. Day two. I'm super happy to see you all joining. Again, the main value point to this challenge is the consistency and regularity in which we take the time to stop our lives, essentially, stop our ambitions, stop our ruminations, and dive into, what can be said to be sort of an open, egoless awareness. So what we're going to work on today and tomorrow, the first 3 days, is just a simple sort of remembering and re-remembering of the definition of mindfulness. And then continuing to contemplate that in our practice. I think that's very, very powerful, a very, very powerful strategy. And before that, mindfulness is exceptionally, exceptionally simple, crazy, crazy simple. And I just want to keep reinforcing that for you, that just sitting down, just being present to whatever arises, that is it. And the big twist, the big reveal is that noticing of whatever arises and not doing anything about it, literally through the body, literally through our thoughts, is deeply powerful for us in terms of our well-being, but also in terms of our spirituality. If you read books on mindfulness and get past sort of the more, the shorter blogs, most of the leaders of the mindfulness community eventually start to communicate, speak in ways of spirituality, speak of the intimacy between ourselves and reality, and how that's a very significant aspect of our being. So what we're going to talk about, mindfulness, the definition is paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And so when we take the time to actually sit down and we close our eyes, I think the main problem is our minds move very quickly, and it shifts from this thought, to this sensation, to that sound, to that feeling, back to this thought, back to this emotion. I just want you to appreciate the speed and the sort of endurance of your psyche and how quickly it can wander from here to there. And instead of thinking of it as distraction, reframe that and consider it a focusing and refocusing. Your brain, as complex as it is tasked with this monumental, this monumental task, which is to perceive reality, perceive an infinite experience. And so therefore it must wander. The little pinhole of the mind must move from here to there all the time to give you, as that sentient soul inside, a clear vision of what you're interacting with. And so as you sit, in the present moment, on purpose, non-judgmentally, don't judge the speed in which your mind is only doing what it was designed to do, which is understand a very, very complex experience known as reality. So that's that. The next bit I wanted to discuss, and hopefully we'll start to pick up on it, is that mindfulness, besides just the art of noticing, as a science, is the study of the consequences of noticing. And so I spoke to this a little bit before, a little earlier, but the consequence of being aware of our mind's movement, being non-judgmentally present to our world and our moments and our sensation, is intimacy. And all I'd like you to notice, and I'll cue it as we move into our practice today, is that yes, in fact, as I sit down and pause my life, I become somehow more intimate to life. And that's it. Cool. So a little refresher, we're going to study the definition of mindfulness in action in real time, and then hopefully observe this consequence that just doing nothing really deepens our sense of intimacy with the world, and that is an existential need. And we all have this drive to connect to our reality. Maybe we don't feel it when we're overwhelmed with, the busyness of our obligations and ambitions, but when we have more days behind us than ahead of us, I think it becomes very obvious that, the purpose of existence, the purpose of life was just to be intimate with life. And it's good to know that and hold that in the forefront of our minds, I think. Okay, here we go. Comfortable seated position. Again, mindfulness is very, very open, very flexible. If you want to lay down, lay down. If you want to sit in a chair, sit in a chair. If you want to sit on the floor, sit on the floor. Your eyes can be open. Your eyes can be closed. You can be standing. You can walk slowly and mindfully in circles, whatever it might be. Awesome. And so we're going to take the first 3 minutes just to appreciate what it is we're all doing together. We're starting our day, delaying our routine, delaying our errands, delaying our to-dos to be with life and to be with ourselves, non-judgmentally and on purpose. And so for the next 3 minutes, I'd like you, one, to recognize that, be aware of that. And two, to understand, to contemplate that this is meaningful, this is valuable, this is nutrition to the nervous system, and food for the soul. Slow breaths, 3 minutes starts now. Slow down the breath slightly. And take the time to acknowledge what you're doing. You are practicing mindfulness at the beginning of your day because some part of you believes this will be balancing, harmonizing, rejuvenating, stabilizing. You're learning to trust the effort of non-doing. And that's 3 minutes. Now, the first aspect of mindfulness's definition, paying attention to the present moment. Acknowledge how complex the present moment is. More complex than our greatest technologies. 1,000 sounds, 1,000 sensations, 1,000 interacting pieces. Allow the mind to hop from experience to experience, sensation to sensation, thought to thought, like an excited bumblebee bouncing from flower to flower to flower. And understand that your thinking is a part of this present moment, that your mind is allowed to wander through thoughts. Your mind is allowed to think in mindfulness. Your heart is allowed to feel. So for 5 minutes, observe the mind in its frantic, excited, and endless dancing. Slow down the breath and acknowledge that you are enacting the first aspect of mindfulness, paying attention to the present moment. Distraction is part of the present moment. The sounds around you are part of the present moment. You are doing it correctly. The second two aspects of the definition: on purpose, non-judgmentally. It's the absence of judgment that proves to be tricky, but the solution is recognizing the difference between thought and awareness. So again, notice the mind like a happy bee, buzzing from flower to flower, buzzing from sensation to thought to emotion, outside to inside, past to future. Let the bee remain free, free to wander, free to explore. But notice wherever the bee lands, you are aware of its landing. You are aware of the flower. Some flowers are bitter, some flowers are sweet, but it is the awareness of the flower that is most curious. 5 minutes here. It is through awareness that we become more open to the many flowers the bee of the mind explores. Slow down the breath. Non-judgment becomes more and more possible the more sensitive we are to awareness. The more we can feel, the more we understand that we are not the flowers that our mind lands upon. We are only aware of the flowers, aware of the sensations, aware of the thoughts. Now, mindfulness is the art of noticing this awareness. But the science of mindfulness is the study of its consequences. As you sit, notice an increased sense of intimacy with the world around you. Provoke sincerity and appreciate that deep down, or at the surface of your heart, what we crave most is intimacy with the world. Not necessarily with ourselves, not necessarily just with our ambitions, just with our motivations, but with the world itself, with the sounds of life, the aesthetic of our present reality. The next 8 minutes on your own, feeding this intimacy. As always, slow down the breath. And last time, mindfulness is the effort of being present to the current moment on purpose, non-judgmentally. And somehow through this non-judgment, we can feed a deep need to be more intimate with the world, not just ourselves. And so feel in these final breaths that you are somehow consciously with everything that you can be with. Every sound that your ears can hear, you are aware of. Every thought that your mind can think, you are aware of. Every sensation your body is having, you are aware of to the best of your ability. This is the practice. For 5, deepen the sense of intimacy. 4, by appreciating awareness. 3, 2, one more breath in and out. Okay, and with a breath in, open your eyes. Good stuff. Alrighty. I am smiling. Good work, everyone. Day 2 done.